if you're going to save money, one of the most important things we've done, and we've worked over the last 10 years, we worked with in excess of 500 organizations to help them optimize their IT. One of the most fundamental things, and we continuously amazes us, is that in a lot of those organizations, they didn't actually have a very clear understanding of what assets they had and what they used to provide the services. Now, this is often due to staff churn, poor documentation, whatever, but if you want to save money, then it's a really useful idea to know what you're spending your money on at the moment. And I mean, I can give you sort of 3 or 4 real world examples. An organization, not a huge organization, about 200 staff in the social housing space. They were using over 90 servers when we first came across them to deliver the service to those users, each one of which needed to be hosted, paid for. Now, obviously, these are virtual servers, so they're not quite as expensive as physical servers. I mean, if you go back to the early noughties, that would have been 90 physical servers. But no, virtual servers still have a cost. Whilst you can create them very quickly and shut them down very quickly, it still has a cost. So we embarked with them to actually identify what each of these 90 servers did. By the time we'd finished the rationalization exercise, that entire organization was getting a better result with better resilience out of 40 servers that supported the core business processes. Net saving. Another one, recently we have a client we've started working with that, for a variety of very, very valid business reasons, had found themselves with 10 separate Azure tenancies across their organization. Again, this wasn't a huge, I mean, Fordway is an organization, we specialize in working with mid-sized enterprises. And across those 10 tenancies, they had over 120 servers. None of those tenancies were linked with the other tenancies, apart from they were all paid for by the same organization, because the departments themselves were in charge. But ultimately, whilst the departments were in charge of the tenancies, this was an IT related issue. Over 120 servers. Again, a rationalization exercise, consolidation exercise. That's now 76 servers within one master tenancies with sub-tenancies. So the departments themselves haven't lost any capability, but each of those tenancies, as an example, had an Active Directory server. In most cases, they had 2. Each of those tenancies had a file server. These are the sorts of issues where consolidation, and those 76 servers now are, their Azure consumption bill has been reduced by nearly 40%. I have to say the data storage bill is still growing, but that's one we can't do that much about. But the actual consumption of Azure revenues across those now one master tenancies with the 10 sub-tenancies and proper tagging and identification. The other key thing about knowing what you have, it's really all about processes. So we, as an organization, heartily recommend and follow implicitly the disciplines of ITIL. Which we're now having credited in ISO 20000. One of the key controls you must have, and if you don't have this, you really need to be implementing as a priority quickly, is a proper, change management process, identification, what's new. So a proper onboarding and offboarding process for any new assets and services. Because when this virtual world, if it's in a virtual environment, there doesn't appear to be a net cost to spin it up, but there is a large overhead to running it. In the cloud world, it is deliberately, and the cloud providers make it so, extremely easy to spin up new resources. But you need to know who's spinning up those resources, because as soon as that resource is spun up in the cloud world, a meter starts running.